Peter Johnson, good to see your name on here. It's been a little while, my friend. I think I saw you on the webinar yesterday too.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to decide, do I ask a question or don't I ask a question on this?
Here we are.
Because I haven't had tons of luck with the traditional stuff, or not the traditional where you're doing complicated cases, but I've still got the one CPA where we've got access to all their clients, but access in the sense that they're warm. So we're looking at using the new program, the Elite Marketing Program, to market to them. So we're developing that out right now. We've got the CPAs like, okay, yeah, we can do whatever, and we'll just have to go through with her and say, okay, this is what we want to do. So I guess my question is kind of the best way to logistically push forward on it.
How many clients do you think you've worked together on, or how many of the CPA's clients have you worked with?
Not really many. I've got one good client out of it, and not really much beyond that. So this is really where she's given us access to where we can send them emails. We can invite them to programs. We're going to be doing a shred party, and she's excited about that. So we can do stuff at their office. I'm working on developing out how to get leads from the EA that's there, and how to pay, that sort of thing. Where we give them a certain amount to refer people over, and some sort of bonus structure for anything that comes in. So we're kind of developing that out. So essentially we're like the marketing arm, the internal marketing arm, but we're marketing more the typical things, right? The stuff that we do, and the other stuff.
It's just fine. I mean, I think a good game is made up of singles and doubles, right? And then it's just exciting when we get the triples and home runs. But I think creating the machine that produces more singles and doubles should be the focus, because the home runs kind of come as a result of, just the constant introductions of the clients.
Right.
So, I mean, it sounds like the relationship is there. It's just the machine is not yet built enough where it's producing those types of consistent introductions for you.
Right.
Think that's...
Well, she bought the firm this year, right?
Oh, okay.
So she was never the lead.
That makes sense then.
She was always the background person. So that's why it's not like a perfect situation from the standpoint of she can hand over the large business clients because she has great rapport with them. But they have, like, just an example, they have 125 retirees. So we can market to 125 retirees. It's just, there's a lot there. It's just a different, it really becomes a different version of what you can do with a CPA. And your marketing program, which I was going through with my son today, is an excellent way to, I think, get at them. It's a matter of putting it together and getting it moving out there, right?
Yep. And how concerned is the CPA with tax season?
Oh, she's always concerned. I didn't meet yesterday because of that, but I've been meeting with her once a week.
Oh, good.
For a year now. So, when you talk about patience to these guys,
you're here.
There's a reason that Anton talks about patience, is because you're developing somebody who you're not sure. I say for a year, but it was a year because I was also working with her predecessor.
Yeah.
But it takes time, but you develop it, and you bring coffee every week, and they'll tell you don't bring coffee, but they want it anyways when you bring it. So so they owe you. And what do they owe you? I don't know, but we're working on that. So
the law of reciprocity.
Basically.
That's awesome. So, I mean, it sounds, there's obviously been some changes in the ownership, which does delay things a bit. But it sounds like we've got the makings here of turning this thing into a pretty good 2021 relationship. A couple of thoughts that come to mind, because we're like getting into tax season, really getting the CPA comfortable with the CIQ. It may or may not be the appropriate time for that. A lot of times the CPAs feel like, I just don't have the time right now to be really sitting down and identifying like 3 to 5 top clients to be introducing you to and doing the CIQ. So there
We're
are
trying to work on that. We're trying to implement for any, at least particularly for new clients, because
Mhm.
they're actually bringing in some new clients with Ramsey,
Okay.
which, you know, it's
His
new to
program.
them.
Yeah.
It's new to them, but, you know, we're developing a process for the new clients,
Good.
which is going to involve some version of the CIQ. You know, maybe not the full version where you don't want to scare them to death, but, you know, enough to get as much information as we need, you know, for
So that was going to be one of my suggestions, which is good. I would say help her identify a new process for new clients, right? And the CIQ, in my opinion, should be a part of that process.
Right. Yeah.
And ideally, it looks like you being introduced as a member of her team, and you're the liaison for advanced planning.
Right.
And then you sit down with the client via Zoom and you go through the CIQ together. I mean, that's like best case scenario, because then you're actually building the relationship. You're getting some additional information. Once you complete the CIQ, perfect. You know, let's say the CPA's name is Amy. Amy and I will sit down, look at the results together. We'll circle back with you in the next couple of weeks if there's anything that we should be discussing further with the team. You know, in terms of current clients, you said she's got 175 retarees, or
Yeah, the 125 retirees. I mean, she's got a lot of clients. It's a 400 altogether. So we're working on implementing just an ongoing marketing program to them.
Yep. So yeah, great idea. And
they sent out one of these to all of them in their booklet that they send out at the beginning of the season.
Peter, I'm liking it more and more. So
yeah.
So they've already sent this out, and what was the response? Any filled in?
I think they haven't got any response yet. You know, because because nobody's quick, for one thing, but also because I think they only sent it out 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Okay, and it was in part of the kind of the tax package.
Right. So, perfect. And we've also put together one where they can email it out.
Perfect.
You know, Google form.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, so for everybody else, this is in week 6 here, under monetizing the CPA relationship. And what I would encourage people to think about, and this is kind of what Peter and I are discussing, is like as the relationship develops, we shouldn't just use one form of fishing, like one line in the water. We want to have multiple lines at all times. So the CIQ is like a rifle with a, what are those things called? Sniper? No. You know what I'm talking about? You look through it.
The scope.
Scope. There we go. CIQ is like the rifle with the scope. It's like really specific. We're talking specific clients, and we're doing 2 to 3 of those a week. That should be that process. Additionally, we want to use the client needs review form like this, include these in all of the tax packages. And then Peter, what I would do, you've already talked about getting some type of bonus structure for an enrolled agent. If they have a physical office where people are actually coming and meeting in person, or they're dropping their packages, that front desk person should be trained and given a script on how to ask for the client needs review form.
Do we have a script?
What's that?
Do we have a script for that of any sort, or just create something?
Ooh, you know what? I did at one point.
Because I'm close with the lady up front.
There you go.
For sure.
Phone script for accountant staff to set initial meeting. Take a look at that. I think that will help.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, every time I come in, like I come in once a week, so I meet with her before I meet with anybody else.
So what you want to do then is get her into the routine where she's asking specifically for these, and then giving them to you, right? And you're reviewing them, and then just determining whether or not there's any appropriate follow-up to do with the client, and kind of you're taking that work or that responsibility onto yourself. And ideally, when the assistant is communicating with the clients, what I've encouraged advisors to do in the past is have some type of like little bonus built into this activity, whether it's $5 for every client needs review form that she gets back from the client. You know, it's something like that.
Right.
And depending on where you are in the country and what they're being paid, you know, if it's an extra 100 or 200 bucks a month, it's like, cool. She or he might be excited about that, but it just builds it in as part of the routine. So now you got the CIQ, where ideally we're identifying 2 to 3 new clients a week in our weekly meetings together. You got the client needs review form, which you included in the tax package. And now the assistant is kind of being trained to ask for those to get back. And so that's like the rifle, the shotgun, and then you've got this net that you're throwing out, which is the elite marketing platform. Or for those of you that aren't using that, you know, it's similar. It's ongoing communication that we're doing with their prospects and clients. And the topics can vary, but the point is it's consistent touches. And if you're looking at the elite marketing platform, it's across the board, from tax planning, financial planning, insurance planning, planning for a family, buying your first home,
coaching businesses. It seems some of those are business coaching. Yeah, quite interesting.
Right. And all of these things is just partly, obviously, it's the content, but partly it is just the consistent touch. And if you're sending these to enough people over enough time, then ultimately what you start to do is just add in one more kind of pipe into your machine where somebody reads it and goes, interesting, like, hadn't talked to you about this last year, but my wife and I just had our first kid, and I just got your newsletter about planning financially for a family. Oh, perfect. Let me introduce you to Peter Johnson and his team, or let me introduce you to my planning specialist, you know?
Yeah.
So
you become their planning and marketing specialist, because
exactly.
they don't do any of this stuff very well.
Yep. The ideal relationship is we are leveraging, and not in a bad way, but in a genuine way to help clients. We're leveraging their trust that they've established with their clients, their credibility, and essentially their book of business. And we are leveraging our skills, which typically tend to be around either marketing or sales or communication, you know, and that's where kind of the marriage happens. So I think you're like right on, Peter. It's going to take a little more time, but also probably getting a little bit more clear with what the 2021 plan is.
Right.
And start putting something together in terms of a calendar, like by the end of
February, that's on the list.
By the end of March.
We just I want to do a webinar in March. We put together, my son and I are going to be doing our full schedule, probably starting either tomorrow or Monday. So we're developing out days that we're either doing the marketing stuff or doing the just general planning for ourselves. But yeah, so that's what we're developing out, is we want to have that calendar put together for the year, because I want to be able to show the CPA, these are all the things we're going to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to do it.
Plan.
I was trying to do it with the other stuff that I already had. And I'm like, well, let's wait and see what Anton's stuff comes out. And then I've been really impressed with the stuff that you guys put together, because it really pulls a lot of it, makes it a lot easier to pull it together, you know, to put together a process instead of just trying to go look for, you know, pieces here and there, which gets, at the very least, you just start something and then stop and forget about it for a while, you know. So I like it.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. That's obviously the goal. Is it's a great model, and it's really good timing. Like, it's only gotten better timing. And I think the thing that's just gotten in the way for some advisors and accountants really kind of working well together is just that kind of consistent turnkey communication with prospects and clients. So hopefully we're addressing that. And I think for some people that will be, you know, the missing puzzle. It's not needed, but I think it will be helpful.
Well, I think at least you could say, okay, this is our process. You know, they might tell you they don't need process, but they, you know, the one I'm working with, I don't think she's as organized as many are, but I think they all want to say they're organized, and I think they're not. But the more we can say, okay, this is exactly what we need to do, and they don't have to actually do anything, that helps a lot. You know, like, or well they said. Have to, as I tell, well, we'll do the webinar, but you can just be on at the beginning and the end. you know.
Give them a script anytime you want them to communicate. Script it out, literally role play it with them.
Yeah.
Like, Terry, this goes back to your question kind of. Like, we don't want to make assumptions that just because they're a CPA or because they're an attorney, they're gonna like handle everything well. Like, we want to, some of you have heard me say this before, but we want to control the controllables. And Peter, one of those variables is what they say when they open their mouth to introduce it at the beginning of the webinar and at the end of the webinar. So script that out, role play it with them so they're comfortable.
Right. Yeah. No, and they appreciate it too, because they're petrified. All they're thinking, you can see it in her eyes as you're talking to her, just how the darkness comes over her as she thinks about extra work, because they just get so bogged down with stuff. And you're like, no, we're going to make this easy for you. Yeah, you can see it's like different shades of lightness and darkness going into her brain as you're saying things. And you go, well, at least you can kind of tell what's hitting and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I'm not saying they're all that way, but I imagine a chunk of them are.
Yeah.
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 So
we were working, Christy knows this CPA well. We were working with a CPA here in San Diego, and you look at their website, you know, you'd be like, wow, great firm, good marketing, got a few staff members, doing a couple $1 million of revenue a year. And it was like months of trying to pull teeth of getting him to reach out to his clients just to set a meeting for, at the time it was Dave Dorr. And like, finally, we just like, what's the problem? I'm so scared to pick up the phone and call my clients about this.
Oh yeah, you mentioned them calling clients, and
God.
the darkness just takes over.
That's where like, the role playing comes in.
The calling, and that's why, you know, the marketing through the system that you put together, it's so much easier for them because they don't have to call clients. They just have to let you be in charge of at least getting in front of these people. So eventually the clients will raise their own hand, you know.
Yeah.
And you still want to get them to call some clients, but
yeah,
you know, either way, it's, yeah, they can be petrified.
Yeah. It's funny.